The old farmhouse stood isolated amidst the rural landscapes of Vermont, its weathered walls and creaky structure bearing the marks of time and neglect. Simon, a sturdy man of practical inclinations, gazed upon it with a mixture of ambition and nostalgia. Next to him, his son Finn, a teenager with a contemplative demeanor, looked on with a curious twinkle in his eye, sensing the adventure and also the unknown that lay within the old walls. It was supposed to be a project, a summer activity to bring father and son closer. Simon saw the renovation as a chance to teach Finn the value of hard work and to pass on some carpentry skills. Finn, on the other hand, was drawn by the mystery of the house, the untold stories it held within its ancient frame. As they crossed the threshold, a musty scent, laden with memories and old secrets, greeted them. The house was a time capsule. Furniture draped in dusty covers, old photographs with faded smiles, and walls that whispered tales from a bygone era. Every room seemed to hold its breath, waiting to exhale stories of the past. The first few days went by in hard labor. Simon and Finn toiled from dawn till dusk, stripping away old wallpaper, reinforcing the weary beams, and sanding down rough surfaces. Yet, as they worked, an unspoken unease began to take root. Finn felt it more acutely, a sensation of being watched, of whispers just beyond the edge of hearing. Simon noticed it too, but tucked it away in the back of his mind, attributing it to the natural creaks and groans of an old house settling in. It was on the third evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and cast long shadows across the farmhouse, that their project took an unexpected turn. In the basement, behind a crumbling wall, they discovered a hidden room. It was small, untouched by time, with personal belongings scattered around, a stark contrast to the rest of the house. Among the items was a diary, its pages yellowed with age, the handwriting an elegant script that spoke of a different era. This discovery marked the end of the beginning of their renovation project. Little did Simon and Finn know that the real work wasn't about fixing the old farmhouse, but rather about uncovering its hidden tales, its whispered secrets, and the shadows that lurked within its walls. The shadows that were not just remnants of the past, but a presence that still lingered, watching, waiting, and slowly making itself known to the new occupants of the old farmhouse. In the days that followed the discovery of the hidden room, the atmosphere in the farmhouse subtly shifted. The initial excitement over the renovation project was gradually overshadowed by a sense of intrigue and, at times, an unshakable feeling of unease. Finn was the first to notice the change. It was as if the house itself had awakened, its long dormant energies stirred by the presence of the new occupants. Finn's nights were restless, filled with dreams that seemed too vivid to be mere figments of sleep. He would wake up to the sensation of being watched, and during the day, he'd catch glimpses of something just out of sight, a fleeting shadow, a silhouette that vanished when he turned. He mentioned these occurrences to Simon, but his father, ever the pragmatist, dismissed them as products of an overactive imagination, fueled by the house's history and their recent findings. But it wasn't just Finn. Simon too began to feel the oddness that permeated the air. Tools would go missing, only to be found in the most unlikely places. The sound of footsteps would echo through the empty halls, and doors would close with no one near them. Simon rationalized these events as much as he could, attributing them to the wind or the house's old, settling foundation. Yet, deep down, a seed of doubt took root. The turning point came when they decided to delve into the diary they found. Its pages spoke of daily life, of joys and sorrows, but as they read on, a narrative unfolded, a tale of the previous homeowner's attachment to the house, their love for it, and ultimately, their tragic demise within its walls. The diary ended abruptly, the final entries filled with a sense of foreboding and regret. It was then that the nature of their encounters began to change. The feeling of being watched turned into a palpable presence, an entity with whom they were sharing the farmhouse. Lights would flicker without cause, and the temperature in certain rooms would drop suddenly, the chill seeping into their bones. Whispers would float through the air, indecipherable but unmistakably human. Despite the growing unease, there was also a magnetic pull, a desire to understand the spirit's intentions and the history it was a part of. Finn, with his sensitive nature, felt a strange connection to the spirit, a sympathy for its unrest. Simon, driven by a protective instinct, became determined to uncover the truth, to ensure the safety of his son and their new home. As they delved deeper into the history of the house and the story of its previous occupant, the line between the past and the present blurred. The spirit's presence became an integral part of their daily life, a constant companion whose actions were unpredictable and whose intentions were as yet unclear. The farmhouse, with its creaking floors and whispering walls, transformed from a renovation project into a living narrative, a story unfolding with each day, entwining the lives of the living with the unresolved tale of the dead. As days turned into weeks, the influence of the spirit within the old farmhouse intensified. The initially subtle manifestations grew bolder, more tangible, and increasingly personal. Simon, who had always clung to the tangible world of wood and nails, could no longer deny the unexplainable occurrences that unfolded before his eyes. Finn, meanwhile, became more attuned to the presence, sensing its emotions and sometimes, late at night, hearing its whispers as if it was confiding in him. The spirit seemed to be everywhere, permeating every corner of the house with an energy that was at times melancholic, at other times unsettling. The air would often turn heavy, thick with anticipation, as if the spirit was about to manifest itself physically. Objects began to move with more deliberation, as if guided by an unseen hand, and the temperature fluctuations became more pronounced, often leaving rooms icy cold in the wake of the spirit's presence. Driven by a mix of concern and a desire to understand, Simon and Finn attempted to communicate with the spirit. They set up a small seance, using the diary as a medium, hoping to bridge the gap between the living and the dead. For a moment, it seemed as though the spirit was willing to engage, the air vibrating with its energy. However, the calm was short-lived, and the attempt ultimately left them with more questions than answers. Finn, with his quiet determination, dove into local archives and online forums, piecing together the history of the house and its previous occupants. He learned of the tragedies that befell the family, of unfulfilled dreams and a lineage cut short. The spirit, it seemed, was tethered to the farmhouse by a tapestry of unresolved grief and unspoken guilt. As the spirit's influence grew, so did the urgency to understand its intentions. The renovations, once a project of bonding and renewal, took a backseat to the unfolding mystery. The farmhouse, with its peeling paint and groaning floorboards, became a character in its own right, a keeper of secrets, a witness to the past, and a bridge to the unseen. Simon and Finn, each in their own way, felt the weight of the spirit's sorrow. The once clear boundary between their world and the spirit's realm began to blur, the farmhouse becoming a nexus where the past bled into the present, where the living and the dead reached out to each other across the divide. Yet, amidst a growing connection, there was an undercurrent of something darker, a hint of malice that hinted at the spirit's true nature, and the chilling reality of what it sought from the new inhabitants of the old farmhouse. As autumn set in, painting the Vermont landscape in hues of amber and gold, the true nature of the spirit began to unfurl like a shadow stretching at dusk. The quaint occurrences that once intrigued Simon and Finn evolved into a series of unsettling events, marked by a palpable shift in the spirit's demeanor. It was no longer just a lingering presence in the old farmhouse, it was an assertive force, with intentions that were becoming increasingly malevolent. The house itself seemed to respond to the spirit's growing malevolence. Doors would slam shut with force, trapping Simon or Finn on one side, isolating them from each other. The air would sometimes grow so cold that their breaths turned to mist, and an oppressive feeling would settle over the house, as if the very walls were pressing in on them. One evening, as a storm raged outside, the spirit's influence reached a critical point. Finn, sensitive and attuned to the spirit's energy, found himself locked in his room, the windows rattling and the lights flickering violently. In the darkness, he could feel the spirit's presence, not just around him, but inside his mind, whispering twisted tales of the past, seeding doubt and fear. Meanwhile, Simon, downstairs, was confronted with his own ordeal. The shadows in the house seemed to come alive, coalescing into forms that were almost human, only to disperse when he tried to focus on them. The diary, which had been a source of insight into the spirit's past, now seemed to be a conduit for its power, its pages flipping wildly as if caught in a gust of wind. It was in this chaos that the spirit's true intentions began to reveal themselves. Through fragmented whispers and the unsettling history of the house, Simon and Finn came to understand that the spirit sought to repeat its tragic history with the new occupants. It was not just bound to the house by its past, it was anchored by a deep-seated need to relive its anguish, to draw the living into its cycle of despair and darkness. This revelation was a turning point for Simon and Finn. The project to restore the farmhouse, once a symbol of renewal and bonding, had become a struggle for survival against an unseen adversary that sought to consume them. The bond between father and son was tested and strengthened as they realized that facing this malevolent force was not just about protecting their physical selves, but also guarding their minds and spirits against the corrosive influence of the entity that sought to envelop them. With the chilling truth laid bare, Simon and Finn knew that the coming days would demand more from them than they ever anticipated. They would need to delve deeper into the spirit's history, to understand the roots of its pain and rage, and find a way to sever the ties that bound it to the world of the living. The shadows of the old farmhouse, once mere echoes of the past, had become a dark canvas upon which the final battle for control, understanding, and hopefully, peace, would be waged. The tension in the old farmhouse reached its zenith as the chilling autumn winds howled through the barren trees. Simon and Finn, bound by blood and now by their shared ordeal, prepared to confront the malevolent spirit. The knowledge that the entity sought to ensnare them in its tragic loop of despair only fueled their resolve to break the cycle and bring peace to the troubled soul. Armed with insights from the diary, historical records, and their own harrowing experiences, they devised a plan. They understood that confronting the spirit was not just a physical battle, but a psychological one. It required them to face their deepest fears, to stand firm against the psychological onslaught of the spirit, which sought to divide and conquer by preying on their insecurities and doubts. The night chosen for the confrontation was as tumultuous outside as it was within the walls of the farmhouse. The wind screamed like lost souls as Simon and Finn initiated the ritual they believed would appease the spirit. They set up in the heart of the house, the diary open at a page that resonated with their intentions, candles casting wavering shadows on the walls. As the ritual progressed, the atmosphere thickened, the air charged with electricity. The presence of the spirit manifested fully, its form flickering between the ethereal and the horrifically tangible. It lashed out, its energy a maelstrom of grief and rage, shattering windows and shaking the very foundations of the farmhouse. Simon and Finn stood their ground, their voices steady as they recited words of release and peace, their intentions clear not to banish the spirit, but to acknowledge its pain, to offer it a path to tranquility. The spirit, in turn, targeted their resolve, bombarding them with visions of their darkest fears, attempting to turn them against each other. In the climax of the ritual, a moment of pure connection occurred. Finn, reaching out with an empathy that transcended the physical realm, touched the core of the spirit's anguish. Images and emotions cascaded through him, the spirit's memories, its regrets, and its longing for release. The house trembled, the boundary between the planes of existence thinning to a gossamer veil. And then, in a rush of wind and a cascade of light, the spirit's form dissipated, the malevolence that had pervaded the farmhouse evaporating like mist at dawn. In the aftermath, Simon and Finn stood in the quiet, the storm outside quieting to a gentle whisper. The house felt different, lighter, as if a great weight had been lifted from its aged timbers. They knew that the battle was not just about saving their own souls, but about liberating the spirit from its chains of despair. As they surveyed the farmhouse, battered yet standing firm, they realized that their journey was not just one of renovation, but of healing of the house, of the spirit that had dwelled within, and of themselves. The shadows of the old farmhouse had borne witness to a profound struggle, and in the stillness that followed, there was a sense of cautious hope, a belief that the dawn would bring a new beginning, not just for the physical structure, but for the souls that had intertwined within its walls. In the serene aftermath of the climactic night, the old farmhouse seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. The oppressive atmosphere that had once cloaked every corner of the house had lifted, replaced by a tranquility that seemed almost surreal to Simon and Finn. The morning light cascaded through the windows, casting gentle patterns on the floor, touching the walls with warmth, as if the house itself was basking in the peace that now resided within. Simon and Finn, though exhausted, shared a quiet sense of accomplishment and a bond that had been fortified through the ordeal. They walked through the house, noting the physical marks of the confrontation, the shattered windows, the furniture askew, but also feeling an undeniable change in the essence of the place. The shadows that had whispered of dread now seemed to murmur of history and memory, a testament to the house's journey through time. As they sat down with a cup of coffee, looking out at the awakening world, they reflected on the events that had unfolded. The project that had started as a simple renovation had evolved into a profound narrative of discovery, confrontation, and healing. They had not only restored the physical structure of the farmhouse, but had also played a part in healing the wounds of the past, freeing the spirit that had been trapped in a cycle of despair. The diary, once a vessel of the spirit story, now lay quietly on the table, its pages still holding the tales of yesteryear, but no longer pulsating with the energy of unrest. It was, Simon and Finn realized, a chapter of their story now, a bridge between the past and the present, a reminder of the journey they had undertaken. As the day unfolded, the future of the farmhouse began to take shape in their minds. It would no longer be just a summer project but a part of their lives, a place of history and peace, a testament to their journey and the spirit's release. They envisaged the rooms filled with laughter and life, the walls holding not just the echoes of the past, but the promise of the future. Yet, as they planned and dreamed, there remained a subtle acknowledgement, a nod to the enduring mysteries of the old farmhouse. For in its corners and crevices, in the play of light and shadow, there lingered a sense of the untold, a whisper of stories yet to be discovered, ensuring that the farmhouse would always be more than just a structure of wood and stone. Shadows of the old farm had become more than just a title. It had become a narrative of resilience and hope, a dialogue between the ages, and a testament to the power of understanding and compassion. And as Simon and Finn stepped into the future, the farmhouse stood as a silent witness to their journey, a character in its own right, its chapters woven into the fabric of their lives, forever part of the legacy of the land upon which it stood.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the video. We highly recommend you watch the next video here. Oops. I'm waiting for you to click. Yes, you've clicked. Happy watching.